Before we begin, if you enjoy sci-fi stories where humans prove the entire galaxy wrong, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tell me something in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from right now? I always love seeing how far these stories travel across the planet. Now, let me tell you about the night a human pilot made a bet that nearly changed the fate of the entire galaxy. It happened in a place called Carthos Station, a broken station on the edge of the civilized space, the kind of place where smugglers drink, mercenaries gamble, and nobody asks too many questions. That night the bar was loud, metal tables, cheap alcohol, neon lights flickering above heads hardened by years in space, and in the middle of it all, Captain Vax laughed, a reptilian war captain with scars across his scales and the kind of smile that meant trouble. His claw slowly pointed toward the darkest corner of the bar. Sitting there was a small alien woman, silent, alone, a Xylari, one of the species the galaxy called defective, weak, useless, broken, or at least that's what everyone believed. Vax leaned forward and stared directly at the only human in the room, Ethan Marshall, a pilot famous for flying through plasma storms and asteroid fields that destroyed entire fleets. "They say humans can survive anything," Vax hissed. "They say your species is the boldest in the stars." He slammed a stack of platinum chips on the table. "I say that's a lie." The room went quiet. Then Vax spoke again. "I bet 5,000 platinum credits and my entire Orion trade route," he pointed again toward the silent alien woman, "that you don't have the courage to marry that thing." Every pilot in the bar turned to look at Ethan. Some laughed, some waited, but no one expected what happened next. Ethan Marshall stood up, finished his drink, and walked straight toward the alien woman. She looked up, silver eyes, quiet, watching him as if she had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. She handed him a small translation tablet. Words appeared on the screen. 6 lunar cycles. The mechanical voice spoke calmly. "Stay married to me for 6 cycles, and I will give you something worth more than any fortune in the galaxy." Ethan turned slowly back to the bar. Then he smiled. "Deal." And in that moment, without realizing it, the most dangerous bet in the history of the galaxy had just begun. The first days aboard the Wandering Star, Ethan's ship, were strange. The marriage, though only a legal contract to win the bet, required proximity. The galaxy watched and laughed. Holo videos spread across interstellar networks. The great Ethan Marshall and his scrap bride. The Outer Rim Federation had always viewed humans as useful pack animals, predictable but reliable. They tolerated humanity because humans could pilot ships through regions where alien sensors failed. To the Galactic Command, Ethan was nothing more than a fast reflex primate. And Lyra, she was considered a mistake of nature. Her species, the Xylari, had nearly gone extinct decades earlier in a poorly explained industrial accident. The survivors were treated as second-class citizens, silent beings nobody wanted near. But inside the cockpit of the Wandering Star, things were different. Lyra wasn't fragile. She moved through the ship with a grace that seemed to defy artificial gravity. She never spoke, but her silver eyes mapped every bolt, every wire, every circuit. Ethan tried to maintain his tough pilot attitude, yet her presence was unsettling. Imagine being trapped inside a metal can for months with someone you insulted simply to win a bet. Her silence was louder than the roar of the engines. The mystery deepened during the second lunar cycle. Ethan was navigating an unstable warp rift near the Sycorax sector. The navigation computer kept failing. Mass fluctuations were impossible to calculate. "I'll have to abort, or we'll be torn apart," Ethan muttered, sweat running down his forehead. Suddenly, Lyra's small, pale hand touched the control panel. She didn't use the keyboard. Her fingers simply hovered above the flow sensors. Seconds later, the monitors glowed with a blue light Ethan had never seen before. The ship stabilized. No, more than that. It glided through the rift as if physics itself had stepped aside. "How did you do that?" Ethan asked in disbelief. Lyra typed on her tablet. "Your technology is noisy. I simply asked space to be quiet." That was when Ethan began to realize something. The Xylari weren't defective. They were hypersensitive. They didn't just see technology, they felt it. Lyra wasn't merely a survivor. She was a living interface with the universe itself. But one question remained. Why would someone with such power allow herself to be humiliated in a bar? Why marry an arrogant human pilot? As they traveled, Ethan's trust in Lyra grew, but so did his unease. They stopped at an abandoned research station to collect supplies. The station was filled with precursor technology, machines so ancient that no modern species could activate them. When Lyra entered the central chamber, her eyes glowed brightly. Machines that had been dead for millennia suddenly hummed to life. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Lyra, what is this place?" Instead of typing, she walked to a holographic projection of a destroyed solar system. With a gesture, she enlarged a planet that once shone like a green jewel. Eris, her world. Ethan felt his stomach drop. The name was familiar. 10 years earlier, he had been a young Federation pilot, a mercenary, a man who asked no questions. He remembered a mission: deliver chemical reagents to a mining operation, drop the containers, jump to light speed, never look back. The horror slowly settled in. Tension aboard the ship became unbearable. Ethan began searching old Federation archives, logs he had buried deep in his memory, and then he found it. The mining operation on Eris had actually been a planetary-scale biological and geological weapon test. The Federation needed a pilot who wouldn't ask questions. A human pilot. Ethan stared at the digital signature on the report. Ethan Marshall, Level 4 contractor. He hadn't delivered supplies. He had pulled the trigger. He had incinerated the atmosphere of an entire planet. Billions had died. Lyra's family, Lyra's people. What would you do if you discovered the blood of an entire world was on your hands? Ethan nearly collapsed. He looked at Lyra sitting quietly in the ship's kitchen, staring at the stars. She knew. She had always known. The bet in the bar wasn't an accident. She had tracked him, found him. "Why didn't you kill me?" Ethan asked, his voice breaking. He slammed the tablet with the Federation report onto the table. Lyra slowly turned toward him. She didn't look angry. She looked sad. She typed, "Hatred is too heavy a burden for someone who has already lost everything. I didn't want your death, Ethan. I needed you to see. I needed a pilot good enough to take me back to the heart of the lie. The Federation hadn't just destroyed her world. They were harvesting precursor technology from Eris's core to build an even greater weapon. The destruction had not been an accident. It was a harvest." Suddenly, the Wandering Star's radar screamed. 3 Federation battlecruisers exited warp. They surrounded the ship. Captain Vax appeared on the comm channel. "Ethan Marshall," the reptilian voice hissed. "The game is over. You've interfered with a classified Federation asset. Surrender the Xylari, and we may allow you a quick death." The odds were absurd. 1 cargo ship, 3 warcruisers. But Ethan suddenly felt something he hadn't felt in years. Clarity. The guilt that had consumed him hardened into something cold. Determination. He was human, and humans are most dangerous when we have nothing left to lose. "Lyra," Ethan said, locking himself into the pilot's chair. "You said you needed a pilot? Well, you've got the best one in the galaxy." He smiled. "Hold on." He didn't run. He accelerated. The battle became a blur of laser flashes and violent explosions. Ethan flew like a man possessed, pushing the Wandering Star beyond every safety limit ever designed into the ship. The engines screamed in protest as he twisted through space with impossible maneuvers, sliding between incoming fire and debris. But numbers were numbers, and 3 warcruisers were still 3 warcruisers. A massive ion cannon blast struck the rear wing of the ship. The shields collapsed instantly. Warning alarms screamed across the cockpit. "They're preparing a boarding maneuver," Ethan shouted. Before he could say anything else, Lyra stood up. She walked calmly toward the ship's energy core. Ethan turned, confused. "Lyra, what are you doing?" For the first time since he had met her, Ethan heard something that wasn't silence. It wasn't exactly a voice. It was more like a resonance inside his mind, a sound like silver bells echoing through empty space. "Trust me, human." Lyra placed both hands into the plasma conduits of the reactor. Instead of burning her, the conduits responded. Her body began to glow with a blinding white light. Energy flowed through her veins like living starlight. She wasn't being destroyed. She was becoming a catalyst. Her consciousness fused with the ship's systems and the ancient precursor sensors they had recovered. Suddenly, the Wandering Star was no longer just a ship. It was an extension of Lyra's will, and Ethan's skill. Imagine the scene. Federation soldiers teleport inside the ship, expecting to find a terrified pilot and a fragile alien woman. Instead, they step into a technological nightmare. The lights inside the ship twist into sharp beams that cut through the air. Gravity fluctuates violently. The atmosphere itself becomes thick with electrical charge. The ship is alive. Ethan grabs his pulse pistol and storms down the corridor. He is no longer the cynical man from the bar. He is something else now. He is the fury of a species that protects its own. He moves with brutal precision. 1 shot. Another. Federation soldiers fall one by one as he advances through the narrow corridors. At the same time, the Wandering Star, guided by Lyra, performs micro-warp jumps of only a few meters. The ship flickers in and out of space around the cruisers like a ghost. Ethan opens the comm channel. "Vax!" he roars. "You called me a primate, remember?" He reloads his pistol. "Well, the primate is coming for your head." The final confrontation happened near the Krios star collapser. It was a massive astrophysical anomaly, a dying star collapsing into a gravitational nightmare. The Federation had secretly built their research base there. And inside that base, they were assembling the ultimate weapon. Ethan pushed the ship forward, straight into the collapsing star's corona. The heat was unimaginable. The hull began to groan. Quartz windows cracked under the pressure. The ship's structure trembled violently. "Lyra," Ethan said, gripping the controls with bleeding hands. "Now." For the first time in her life, Lyra screamed. It was not a silent resonance. It was a real sound, a voice so powerful it shattered every piece of glass on the bridge. The energy she released was not destructive. It was something far more dangerous. Truth. The signal she sent was stronger than any transmission network in the galaxy. Every flight log, every recording from Eris, every classified document from the Federation, every secret plan, all of it, broadcast simultaneously. Every planet, every home, every device, the entire galaxy saw the truth. The genocide, the lies, the harvest of a destroyed world. The Federation's crime was no longer hidden, but behind them, Vax's flagship prepared one final shot, a weapon designed for complete annihilation. "I'm going to perform the slingshot maneuver," Ethan said. Blood ran from the corners of his eyes due to gravitational pressure. "If we miss, we turn into cosmic dust." He shut down every safety system, every limiter, every automatic override. Now only two things remained: his instincts and Lyra's connection to the universe itself. The wandering star dove toward the event horizon of the collapsing star. For one endless second, time stopped. Ethan saw flashes of his life, his mistakes, his victories, his empty pride. Then he pulled the control stick with all his strength. Using the dying star's gravity, he launched the ship like a slingshot, straight toward Vax's flagship. They didn't fire weapons. They became the projectile. The impact was silent, absolute. The wandering star tore through the cruiser's hangar bay, ripping its hull apart like paper. The massive warship lost structural integrity instantly. And seconds later, Vax's flagship was swallowed by the newborn black hole forming at the center of the collapsing star. Silence returned to the cockpit. The galaxy was never the same again. The scandal destroyed the Federation's leadership. Governments fell. Investigations spread across star systems. The Xylari were no longer seen as defective. They were recognized as guardians of ancient knowledge, knowledge that could now help rebuild what had been lost. And Ethan Marshall, the man who had once destroyed a world, helped expose the lie that destroyed many more. He and Lyra disappeared from the major trade routes. They landed on a quiet peripheral world far from politics, fame, and war. 6 lunar cycles passed. The marriage contract ended. Ethan sat on the ship's ramp, watching the sunset over alien hills. Lyra approached him slowly. She no longer carried the translation tablet. She sat beside him and gently rested her head on his shoulder. "You fulfilled the bet," she said softly. Her voice sounded like wind passing through forest leaves. "You're free, Ethan Marshall." Ethan looked at his hands. The same hands that had once destroyed a world and later helped save a future. He smiled slightly and looked up at the stars. "You know something, Lyra?" he said. "I've never been very good at following contracts." That day, the galaxy learned an important lesson. Never underestimate a species considered fragile. And never, under any circumstances, challenge a human to prove what they are capable of. Because humans may destroy worlds by mistake, but we will move the universe itself to make things right. Some bets are made to win money. Others are made to win a soul.